Beirut, Lebanon. Turkey's leader denounced President Bashar al-Assad of Syria on Wednesday as a terrorist mass murderer with no place in that country's post-war future, scrapping a softened approach that Turkish officials had taken toward Mr. Assad in recent years. The statement by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey came as Mr. Assad seemed more confident than ever that he has won the war and will remain Syria's leader for the foreseeable future. It also came against the backdrop of maneuvering by many powers, most notably Russia and Iran, Mr. Assad's most important allies, to influence the outcome of a devastating conflict that has reshaped Middle East politics. One of the first leaders in the region to condemn Mr. Assad when the conflict began in 2011, Mr. Erdogan had in recent months signaled a willingness to accept Mr. Assad's political longevity. The Turkish leader's shift on Wednesday was a reminder of their hostility, coming as Mr. Assad has demonstrated greater swagger over his grip from military gains over the past year, largely with Russia's help. In a new sign of his confidence, Mr. Assad even allowed a modest medical evacuation of civilians on Wednesday from one of the last rebel enclaves in the country, near Damascus. Russia, along with Iran, has been collaborating with Turkey, which supports some Syrian rebel groups, to lead diplomacy aimed at ending the Syrian war, now nearly 7 years old. All three also have been jockeying for position in the country's post-conflict future, even as their efforts to end the fighting have proved only partly successful. Mr. Erdogan appeared to be reminding Russia that it cannot dictate Syria's future alone, especially on issues sensitive to Turkey, most notably those involving Syria's Kurdish groups, which Turkey sees as enemies. Russia on Tuesday said that representatives of a semi-autonomous Kurdish area in northeastern Syria would be allowed to take part in talks that Russia is hosting next month, an inclusion opposed by Turkey. Assad, I am saying this loud and clear, is a terrorist who spreads state terrorism, Mr. Erdogan said at a joint news conference with the Tunisian president, Beji Keita Sebsi, in Tunis. Would the Syrian people like to see someone like this stay in charge? In remarks quoted by Turkish news agencies, Mr. Erdogan also said, it is absolutely impossible to move ahead with Assad in Syria. For what? How could we embrace the future with the president of a Syria who killed close to 1 million of its citizens? Furious over the insult, Syria's foreign ministry called Mr. Erdogan a terrorist supporter who bore prime responsibility for the bloodshed in Syria. The conflict has killed hundreds of thousands. There are no reliable figures, along with upending roughly half of Syria's pre-war population and contributing to a migration crisis that has reverberated around the world. At least 5.4 million Syrians are refugees and more than 6 million are internally displaced, the United Nations says. Mr. Erdogan's statement may have represented more of a tough negotiating stance than a rupture with Russia, which has been enjoying an improved relationship with Turkey, a NATO member. Even as Mr.